Hi everybody, it's La Bella Faye, and today I'm going to be working on this shelf sitter. So I take chalk paint by Folk Art in the color Cottage White, and I give this board 2 coats on all sides. This board I got from my brother-in-law. It was in his stash. I go ahead and do the same thing to the back and then dry the whole thing. I now work with these 3 pieces. I got these at Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to be painting these in the color of it is called Country Red, and it's by DecoArt. It's acrylic paint. And I go ahead and dry all those 3 pieces. And by the way, those are a finial, a plaque. The plaque comes in package of 4, and the candlestick. So what I'm doing here now is that I'm attaching the candlestick to that base, to the oval plaque. And now I have this little piece, this little mold that I made this morning. And I go ahead and paint it in that Cottage White chalk paint, put it to the side. What I'm going to be doing now is that I'm going to be working with this napkin. And I got this at Decoupage Central. And so what I do is I cut 1 piece of the napkin, and I go ahead and remove all the layers. This one had 2. So I go ahead and remove both layers. And then what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be decoupaging my napkin onto my piece of wood. But before I do that, I go ahead and rip away all the edges, just because it'll blend better into the white when you rip it. And you'll see that I have to just keep working until it fits on my board. So I just go and around all the edges and rip those away. And you see it's still a little bit too long for my piece of wood, so I just go ahead and just cut a little bit more. And then I just keep cutting until I'm happy. Not cutting, ripping away. I'm sorry, ripping away. And now I'm happy, so I'm going to go ahead and decoupage that napkin onto my piece of board. And so what I do is I take some Mod Podge, and I spread an even thin layer on 1/2 of my board, lay down my napkin. And what I do is that I pat it dry, but then I take a piece of napkin, the extra napkin that came off the back, and I pat it dry. And I do the same thing to the other side, and that just gets rid of all the wrinkles and any air bubbles that might be on there. And I go ahead, you don't see me, but I do pat it dry. I do pat it with a dry napkin, and it comes out nice and smooth as possible. I go ahead and give that a thorough dry. And what I do is that once I'm finished, I go ahead and apply Mod Podge to the top of the napkin, and I dry it, and that seals it and protects it as well. So what I'm doing here is that I'm going to go ahead and see how that little mold that I made, that little decorative mold looks. I like it, and I use my Gorilla Glue to attach it to the bottom of my plaque. And then I just take, and I always do this when I put my molds down or I'm working with Gorilla Glue. I take a little brush and I just clean it up. So I'm going to go ahead and put a ring of Gorilla Glue, wood glue, on my stand. And then again, I take my little brush and just clean off if any glue is seeping out. I'm going to do the same thing to my finial. I'm going to go ahead, and you don't see me, I'm sorry, I'm out of shot of camera. But I put a dab of Gorilla Glue and put that on the top of my piece of wood. And again, I'm just there cleaning it with my brush if any glue seeps out. And that's what it looks like. And then what happens is I noticed that in the back, when I turned it to show you guys, there was a gap because the piece of wood is not thick enough to cover the whole candlestick. And I didn't like that showing in the back. So I'll show you guys right there. You see that gap there? I take a little piece. It's a half round. But this one, it was too small, so I ended up switching it out for a bigger one. And that one fits much better. And what I do is I take and put a little bit of hot glue on there. And then what I'll do is that I clean it up with my brush again, if any glue is seeping out. And then later on, I'll paint that half round to match the back of the shelf sitter. And that is it, guys. Thank you for hanging out with me. And I hope that you enjoyed this short little tutorial. And I'll be seeing you again with my next project. Take care, guys. Bye.